until they saw their former little fan being embraced by another man. The two aloof male gods were completely thrown off balance. They couldn't believe that the girl who had once been so obedient to them would leave them and give herself to someone else. Little did they know, all of this was their own fault. The three of them were childhood friends. They had promised to stay together forever. The girl once thought they could always stay this happy, but everything changed 3 years ago with the appearance of the nanny's daughter. Since then, they've never been the same. At some point, both men's attention shifted entirely to the scheming woman. Not only did they give everything that once belonged to the girl to the scheming woman, but they also hurt the girl again and again. To protect her, the girl was originally an orphan. She was taken in by the kind-hearted Mrs. William when she was young. She stayed with the William family over the years to repay their kindness, but in the eyes of the two men, she was just a girl who clung to the William family's wealth and refused to leave. After countless disappointments and hurts, the girl decided to leave this place full of sadness. She burned the childhood photos of the three of them, preparing to say goodbye to the past forever. But the two men saw it and immediately scolded her for being unreasonable. If it weren't for their family taking her in back then, she would have starved to death out there. Now, because of her childish behavior, she burned their most precious memories. The girl didn't bother to explain and prepared to go back to her room to rest. But unexpectedly, the scheming woman suddenly grabbed her. Before the girl could react, the scheming woman shoved her hard and then pretended to fall. The two men, without asking any questions, slapped the girl across the face. That slap completely shattered the last bit of hope the girl had. From now on, she was clear of any debt to the William family. The heartbroken girl then called her grandmother. She decided to return to her family and fulfill her engagement. Before leaving, the girl went to say goodbye to Mrs. William. For 20 years, Mrs. William had treated her like her own daughter. She had always thought that the girl would one day become her daughter-in-law, but now it seemed her two sons were not worthy of her. To repay Mrs. William's kindness all those years ago, the girl gave all the money she had saved up from working over the years to Mrs. William. Mrs. William didn't want the girl to feel burdened, so she accepted the money with tears in her eyes. As they said their tearful goodbyes, the two men suddenly rushed into the villa. They were sure the girl had come to complain to their mother, so they began to shout at her. Mrs. William was so angry, she couldn't even speak properly. She never expected her two sons to be so blind. They rejected the kind and obedient girl, and instead fell for a vain, scheming woman. In a fit of rage, Mrs. William kicked her two sons out. Seeing the scheming woman's wronged face, the two men warned the girl as they left, telling her to be careful. They would never let the scheming woman be insulted today. After a heartfelt goodbye with Mrs. William, the girl decided to go back and pack her things. But to her surprise, the two men were already waiting at the door. The three of them were determined to make the girl pay the price.